Okay, proofing the linoleum block on newsprint. So this video is going to be a quick walkthrough of how to do just a quick proof that I don't care too much about the results. I'm just trying to get an idea of what my image looks like as it's in progress while carving. So this would be a stage where you think you're getting close to finish, but you're not quite done, or right before you're ready to print your final edition. So I have a few things here. So I have tape, newsprint, I have a palette knife, I have my printing ink and my brayer, as well as some gloves, a piece of mylar to roll the ink out on. You can also use a piece of glass or plexiglass, and my block. I also have a bearing here, which is the wooden handled object that you see there. That's to apply pressure to the block, but I can also use anything that has kind of a rounded surface. So a wooden spoon works great for this. A curved edge of a container can work for this. Anything with a decent sized surface area that's kind of rounded, has a rounded edge to it. Rounded flat edge would be really nice. So I am going to take this mylar and tape it down to my surface that I'm working at here. It's got to be big enough large enough for me to roll out the ink with the brayer. I need to move it out of the way here because it's in the way of the camera. So I'm going to tape it down so it's not going to go anywhere on me. So I'm just using painter's tape because it's really easy to pull it off of the surface. Afterwards, it should be nice and flat. Like I said, you can see it's large enough for the brayer to ride over it the whole time. I have my newsprint here. So I have several sheets. I'm going to put one down just to kind of plot out and keep the surface clean if I want. And then I am putting some tape also, some of the painter's tape, and I'm putting it on my clothing first to make it so it's not quite as tacky, and then I'm putting it down so it's not going to on the bottom of the block, so the block doesn't move around too much on me while I'm going through this proofing process. If you make this too thick, it could be an issue because it raises up a surface on the block that's higher than the other areas, and you might get like a little halo. But I'm just proofing, so I don't care too much about that right now. So I have my ink. I can use a painter's scraper palette knife here, or I can use like a painting palette knife, anything that's going to pull out the ink and allow me to apply it to the surface. So I don't need a ton of this. I'm shooting for something that looks like the skin of a peach when I roll it out, and it only needs to be as wide as my brayer is wide in either direction. You don't want to ink up all of your mylar here because then you're just kind of wasting ink. And so as I roll this out, I'm listening for like a nice light hiss. If it sounds like kind of wet and slappy, it means, or it looks like curdled cheese or curdled milk, then I'd want to pull some of the ink out of that slab and put it into my container and roll it out until it has that nice light hiss to it. I'm using a water-based ink here. You might have oil-based ink or a water miscible oil-based ink. So then once I have a nice even hiss, a nice even coating of ink on my roller or my brayer, I start rolling over my block. I'm applying very little pressure here, just mostly the weight of the roller because I don't want to fill in any of my lines. I'm hitting it from multiple directions to make sure that the entire block is inked up. The block, when I look at it, should have that same peach skin, peach fuzz look to the entire surface. If I see an area that's really matte, it probably means that I didn't get enough ink onto it. So I just need enough to pull a decent proof here. So with the newsprint, I don't care about registration, but I put that on top, and then I'm just rubbing with good pressure over top of the surface of the block until I transfer the ink over. And you can see the ink kind of coming through or appearing through the newsprint, and you can tell the areas that are inked up versus the areas that aren't. You want to be careful not to rip the newsprint, not to tear it by putting a ton of pressure with like a crisp edge or anything like that. And you can see on the corners it has a tendency to want to rip on its own. But I just keep rubbing. You can see I just used a jar or a can there, and then I can pull that back very slowly, pull it by the corners to see if there's any areas that didn't get ink. You can see I popped it back down and then reapplied pressure in the areas where it looked like it needed more, where it looked kind of patchy. So then I pulled out. This print's probably not going to be perfect, but it's enough for me to tell what this thing looks like when it's printed. And so then from there I can carve more in areas that I need to take more away from this block. After that I need to clean all this up.